The anime starts with a big white dragon who finds himself trapped in bondage as the hero of the world strikes with his final load. Puzzled, the dragon reflects that, to his knowledge, he has never done anything to warrant a human attack. In fact, he has even allied with them on several occasions. Breaking free from the chains, the legendary creature gazes at the moon and acknowledges that he's lived a long life. He thought that this is an unfitting end for a divine dragon who has existed since the age of gods. However, he accepts the hero's shots and begins to crumble away. As he faces the end, the dragon looks forward to his eternal rest. But the anime gods have other plans. He is reincarnated as a human, born to a family who names him Dullin. Years pass, and Dullin grows into a young man living in the small village of Varen, on the northern border of the continental kingdom of Arrest. The village thrives on agriculture, and Dullin works hard in the fields to earn his daily bread. At 16, he's already considered an adult, having left his family home the previous year to live on his own as is customary in the village. One day, Dullin goes fishing with his older brother, who asks about his upcoming journey to investigate the swamp. Your family who once lived there vanished about a month ago, and the village needs to figure out why, as they relied on them for trade. His brother notes that this task should fall to the garrison, not Dullin, but the former dragon explains that Captain Balon and the others are too busy defending the village. His brother offers to accompany him, but Dullin reassures him that he'll be fine. While talking, Dullin catches a massive fish after a brief struggle. On his way back to the village, he runs into Merida and Albert, who comment on his impressive catch. Dullin thanks Merida for convincing the village chief to allow him to go on the mission. She humbly says it's the least she can do since he helps with the training sessions for the children. Albert advises Dullin to focus on preparing for the journey, as there are dangerous monsters and bandits near the village. With limited soldiers, the outskirts can enjoy the same level of protection as the cities, so the villagers must defend themselves. Back home, Dullin preserves the fish so it won't spoil. Just as he finishes, Ares stops by to remind him of their magic practice. She secretly has a crush on Dullin but hides it, claiming she just happened to be in the area. During practice, Dullin demonstrates his impressive offensive magic, perfectly hitting the target with an energy bolt. His master is impressed but reminds him they also need to work on magical healing, which was Dullin's weakest subject. After the lesson, the village chief introduces Dullin to Christina, a noble woman who will be staying in the village for a while. The chief warns Dullin to be respectful due to her status. Soon after, Dullin and Christina exchange greetings and briefly share a moment as they look into each other's eyes. The chief then continues to show Christina around the village, and Dullin notes her poise and grace. Later, Dullin visits his family to deliver food. He reflects on the harsh weather of the village, where winters are freezing and summers blistering. He's surprised by how humans manage to survive in such extreme conditions. His parents and younger brother warmly greet him, and his mother prepares a delicious meal. During dinner, his father teases him, suggesting that living alone must get lonely and that he should find a wife, as his older brother did. But Dullin insists he's okay with being single for now. The conversation then shifts to his upcoming journey, and his mother expresses concern about the dangers of the road. However, Dullin reassures her that he won't take any unnecessary risks and that the trip is purely investigative. Hearing this, his father trusts his son's judgment, believing he can make his own decisions. But the only thing he asks is that Dullin returns home safely to spare his mother any worry. He then promises to come back with a great story to tell. On the morning of his departure, Captain Balon expresses again that the mission should be handled by soldiers, but Merida reminds him that with a high risk of monster attacks, they can't afford to leave the village undefended. Letitia, the village gnome, gives Dullin a simple blessing from their goddess, and his master tells him that her fortune-telling hints at a faint sense of danger, urging him to stay cautious. Airy, blushing, hands Dullin a packed lunch she made for him. With everything in place, Dullin sets off for the swamp. He arrives without incident and surveys the scene. Taking a deep breath, Dullin removes his gloves and touches the swamp's water to sense what's wrong. He soon realizes why the lizard people fled. The earth elemental's power has surged, while the water elementals has weakened. His master's fortune-telling had been right again. But soon, Dullin's attention is drawn to some rustling in the bushes. He draws his sword, knowing that only powerful monsters can survive in the swamp in its current state. However, he is surprised when a baddie named Selena emerges. Selena calls Dullin foolish for coming alone, but he brushes off her remark, noting that it's strange to see demi-humans like her in this area. Despite the danger, he can't help but notice that she is as beautiful as the rumors suggest. Selena seems relieved when Dullin confirms he's alone and tries to charm him with a dance passed down by her mother. However, she can't remember the steps and ends up looking more silly than alluring. Exhausted, she admits that she didn't come to fight, but before they can discuss further, your mom suddenly appears. The creature lashes out at Selena, but Dullin cuts off its hand before it can harm her. As the monster begins to regenerate, Dullin grabs Selena, pulling her into hiding. He explains that the creature is a mad elemental, likely the reason the lizard people fled. He suspects that a recent earthquake disturbed the elemental, driving it mad. Unfortunately, there's no way to calm it down, so they have no choice but to destroy it. The two quickly introduce themselves, and Dahlin asks if she can use magic. Selena, being an earth-type monster herself, doubts her magic will be effective against the elemental. However, she believes her unique racial spell might work. They soon devise a plan. Dahlin will confront the creature directly while Selena supports him from a distance. She starts reciting her spell with a tone that sounds almost like wedding vows, causing her to blush in embarrassment when Dahlin points it out. Selena summons a giant snake that constricts the elemental, buying Dahlin enough time to launch his attack. Selena cheers as they defeat the monster, but she gets splattered with mud in the process. Dahlin quickly checks to ensure she isn't hurt and thanks her for her help. He then collects the gems dropped by the defeated creature. After cleaning up, Selena sits beside Dahlin as he prepares a pot of soup. She's surprised that he's not afraid of her, unlike most humans. Dahlin remarks that she's different from the other Lamias he's met, who are typically more wary and aggressive towards humans. Curious, he asks why she's in the area, as there aren't any Lamia villages nearby. Selena reveals that when Lamias turns 17, they must leave their village to search for a husband, and she is now on that journey herself. Selena explains further, providing some background on her race. Lamias are an all-female species, and it's rare for them to give birth to male offspring. When they do, the child is always of the father's race. The Lamias originated when a cursed human woman passed her affliction to her female descendants. Due to their partially snake nature, their body fluids contain venom, meaning they must choose husbands with strong, venom-resistant bodies. Dahlin sympathizes with her, acknowledging that it must be harder for Lamias to find partners than it is for other races. Selena shares that her mother also met her father on a journey. He was a human like Dahlin, and she's touched by how well her parents got along. She feels Dahlin is treating her like a child with his kind responses, but he reassures her that's not the case. In fact, he finds her cute, which makes her blush. He serves her a bowl of soup, admitting it's not as good as his mother's cooking, but it's still tasty. Selena takes a bite and is overwhelmed by the meal, praising its rich flavor and aroma. Realizing she's getting overly excited, she stops herself and apologizes. Dahlin smiles, telling her that his mother taught him how to cook. He's glad she likes it, recalling how his family would gather around the pot on cold nights. Selena, noticing the warmth in his voice, comments that it's clear how much he loves his family. Dahlin agrees, reflecting to himself that the lonely dragon he once was is no more. The two spend the night bonding over stories of their families. As dawn breaks, they prepare to part ways. Dahlin shakes Selena's hand and wishes her luck in finding a great husband. He mentions that Lamias are fond of life energy, so he gives her a small amount of his own, only to accidentally overwhelm her with the strength of his draconic energy, causing her to fall. He quickly apologizes, realizing that a dragon's life energy might be too potent for her. Before leaving, Dahlin tells her he's returning to his village, but hopes that one day she'll visit with her future husband. They bid each other farewell and head off to their respective destinations. This then marks the end of today's anime recap. If you enjoyed the video and want more of it, please support the channel by leaving a like and subscribe. Let's help us reach our current goal of 20,000 subscribers. A few days later, a guard and a villager from the village noticed a woman crossing the bridge towards Varen. The villager remarked how dangerous it was for a young woman to travel alone, but she confidently reassured them that there was no need to worry. She believed that she was stronger than she looked. After all, she was just a simple Lamia. Once they realized she was a snake woman, they both panicked and ran off without looking back, much to Selena's frustration. Meanwhile, back at Dahlin's house, Maguru was teaching Dahlin and Eri the basics of magical medicine. Unlike regular medicine, magical potions were made from ingredients imbued with magic and required extreme care and preparation. Even the smallest mistake could be dangerous or fatal. As she finished explaining this, Dahlin made his first mistake. Maguru chuckled, teasing him about not being very good with delicate tasks. Eri then encouraged Dahlin not to get discouraged, pointing out that he had a sharp eye for medicinal herbs and was wonderful with children. Blushing slightly, she added that he was also quite handsome. Dahlin thanked her for the kind words, but admitted that he struggled with following complex recipes, acknowledging he had a lot to learn. Maguru, finding no issue with Eri's mixture, sent her off to play outside. Eri, however, preferred to stay and help her mother, so she excused herself. During this, Dahlin reflected on his past life as a dragon, where he never needed medicine, which might explain why he wasn't good at handling delicate things. Despite Dahlin's frustration, Maguru reassured him that his offensive magic was exceptional, though magical medicine was still a challenge for him. She reminded him that there were no shortcuts in life and that the obstacles he faced were just steps on his journey to improving. Later that day, Dahlin went to Eri's house for lunch after being invited. Aries' father offered a prayer to Miral, the goddess of nature, thanking her for her blessings. During this, Dahlin reflected that it had been a long time since he last saw Miral. After lunch, he realized he had stayed too long and hurried off. On his way, he was stopped by a cowed demi-human woman who asked if today wasn't his training day. Dahlin confirmed he was late for that reason, but the woman offered him fresh milk that came straight from her, which she regularly shared with the villagers, and despite being in a hurry, Dahlin drank it enthusiastically. Eventually, Dahlin reached the training grounds where 3 young boys were practicing the spears under Albert's supervision. He apologized for being late, but Albert smiled and called for a break. The kids excitedly gathered around Dahlin to show off their skills, but Albert told them to come back after the break, disappointing them. Suddenly, Dahlin sensed the presence of a monster nearby. Albert quickly noticed Dahlin's unusual behavior and asked what was wrong, but Dahlin tried to brush it off. Later that night, Dahlin returned to the forest, following the sensation he had earlier. He was convinced it was a monster, perhaps one he had encountered before. As he ventured deeper into the woods, he came across Selena bathing. Startled, she almost fell, but Dahlin caught her in time. Once she composed herself, Dahlin asked what she was doing there. Embarrassed, Selena asked him to close his eyes. Confused, Dahlin wondered why, since she was a beautiful woman and he saw nothing wrong with admiring her beauty. Annoyed, Selena couldn't understand his indifference. Dahlin calmly explained that it was natural to appreciate beauty, and there was nothing wrong with it. Even so, Dahlin soon appeared with a handprint on his face, apologizing for his lack of sense after Selena had slapped him. They continued their conversation, and Dahlin reminded Selena that she was searching for a husband. She admitted that things hadn't gone well, so she decided to visit him in his village because traveling alone was challenging. Delighted by her arrival, Dahlin promised to help her however he could. He even suggested they live together, which left Selena flustered. After recovering from the shock, she questioned if he was serious since she was a monster. Dahlin explained that his village was home to many beast folk and demi-humans, and while the villagers might initially be wary of her because she was a lamia, her powers and kindness would eventually win them over, allowing her to live peacefully in Varen. Surprised, Selena hadn't considered the possibility of befriending humans. Dahlin then confessed that her presence would make his life more pleasant. Realizing how his words sounded, he wondered if he was unintentionally courting her. Regardless, the invitation was extended, and Selena accepted. She then revealed another reason for seeking him out. She hoped he could share some of his life energy with her, as she had never encountered such a delicious and revitalizing energy. Dahlin agreed, assuring her that once they lived together, she would have as much as she needed. To seal the deal, he transferred a little life energy to her as a demonstration, causing Selena to become excited from head to tail. The next day, Dahlin and Selena discussed their plans, and in the village, the captain and his subordinates were investigating mysterious attacks that had been happening for 3 days, where animals were found dead and strange tracks had been left behind. They suspected that the culprit behind the recent attacks might be the half-human, half-creature shadow they had glimpsed the previous night, specifically a lamia, an extremely dangerous being feared by humans. What puzzled the captain was why she left her prey in the village rather than taking it to eat immediately. The officer warned the village elders of the potential threat lurking in the territory, and everyone wondered why a lamia had appeared in this region, as it was a rare occurrence. Captain Barron also proposed forming a squad to eliminate the creature once and for all. However, one of the village leaders pointed out that they had too few people, making it too risky. They agreed that reinforcements from the capital were necessary, so a messenger needed to be sent right away. While working with Albert, Dahlin overheard this conversation. He had reflected sadly on how deep the divide between humans and monsters ran. It pained him to think that someone like Selena, who was so kind and gentle, could be hated simply for what she was. Back at the meeting, Maguru urged the villagers not to panic, acknowledging Baron's concern for their safety. However, she suggested that the lamia might be leaving the animals as offerings to the village and encouraged them to understand the situation better before taking any action. At that moment, Ari arrived with the results of a divination Maguru had recommended. The elder carefully examined the ritual object and confirmed that Ari had reached the same conclusion as she had. The appearance of the serpent was a good omen, and the villagers should wait and see what happened next. Overjoyed by the decision, Dahlin rushed off to tell Selena that the offering plan had worked, setting the stage for the next part of his plan. The following day, Captain Barron informed his soldiers that a lamia had been spotted, so a special training session would be held to ensure everyone was prepared in case of an attack. The children were captivated by the captain's commanding presence, especially his son Toro. Meanwhile, Dahlin pondered the village's defense and how it played a key role in his plan with Selena. He knew he would need help from key figures like the captain, the lieutenant, and priestess Letitia, who could perform healing miracles and antidotes. However, since Letitia was a messenger of the goddess Miral, Dallin had to ensure she didn't view Selena as a threat, as that would spell disaster for the Lamia. The previous night, Dallin had arranged for Selena to rescue him during training in the burrowing rabbit territory. He would intentionally enter the animal's den and then signal Selena for help. However, things took a different turn when a guard rushed in during training, reporting that your hairy father was approaching. The massive beast soon appeared and raged. Baron then ordered everyone to stay back, as a blow from the bear could be deadly. However, the problem was that Toro was too close to the bear and defenseless. Seeing this, Dallin acted quickly, leaping to protect the boy. At the same time, Selena suddenly appeared, throwing herself in front of Dallin to shield him from the bear's claws. She then cast a spell, commanding the bear to return to the forest, leaving everyone stunned as the beast obediently retreated. Afterward, Selena checked on Toro, asking if he was all right, but Captain Baron remained suspicious of her intentions and threatened her. Dallin defended Selena, explaining that she had saved him and Toro. Another villager, Malad, agreed, but Baron remained wary. He questioned why the Lamia had been leaving offerings in the village and why she had saved them. Selena explained that she had saved them because their families would be heartbroken if they died. She then bowed and pleaded for permission to live in the village, revealing that her father was human and had always loved her mother. Hearing this, Baron asked Priestess Letitia for her opinion. The priestess received a message from the goddess Miral, affirming that the Lamia before them was no threat and that everyone should live in harmony. Letitia then approached Selena, noting that the Lamia was keeping her eyes closed to ease the villagers' fear of curses. Gently, she asked Selena to open her eyes, assuring her that everything was fine now. However, Selena was gravely injured from her earlier efforts and fainted soon after. Once Selena recovered, she was given a house in the village. She was touched by the kindness the villagers showed her, including a plush mushroom left in her new home, an idea suggested by Captain Baron himself. Speaking of him, Baron later apologized to Selena for drawing his weapon on her, acknowledging that she had saved his son's life. Eri asked Selena to share everything she knew about her species so they could take better care of her, and Selena, in turn, wished to learn more about humans. Finally, Dallin, pretending not to know Selena, extended his hand to her in greeting. Overwhelmed, Selena tearfully accepted his gesture, and with that, Dallin officially welcomed her to Varan village. As Dallin gazes out the window, lost in thought, the rest of the group mingles with their newest member. He can't shake the feeling of being indebted to his old friend, the so-called goddess Miral, whose oracle saved Selena. Meanwhile, in town, tension rises as the newspapers report the latest missing woman. Headmistress Olivia receives a letter from her prized assistant, Christina, and her eager assistant urges her to read it. Christina's letter details her time in the village, describing the harsh climate, the constant threat to safety, and the villagers' reliance on combat training. Christina recounts sparring with Vice Captain Merida, where the villagers remarked that it had been a long time since they had seen Merida struggle in a fight. While they knew the Vice Captain hadn't gone all out, Christina agreed. Eventually, Merida gave her all in a fierce exchange, but ended up losing. The crowd cheered, thrilled by the battle. Christina helped Merida up, praising her exceptional sword skills, calling them swift and beautiful, which made Merida blush. Baron then also commended them both on a marvelous mock battle, and Merida invited Christina to join them for lunch. Christina was surprised by how warm and welcoming the villagers were. At the pub, some local girls offered her food, captivated by her beauty. Baron soon joined them, inviting Christina for a drink. However, Albert thought she should decline, knowing the captain tends to go overboard. Merida then scolded Baron, calling his request disrespectful. So Baron quickly apologized, assuring her he meant no offense, and then left with the other boys to enjoy themselves. Christina later overheard them laughing as she prepared for bed, but restlessness led her to train more. During her nighttime training, Christina bumped into Dallin and Selena. Noticing Christina seemed upset, the Lamia invited her to her home. Selena showed off her straw bed, boasting about its comfort. Dallin gently reminded Christina that humans might not find it as cozy, but the noblewoman tried it anyway, surprised by how comfortable it was. Selena spoke of how the villagers' warm nature had eased her worries about being accepted, and she pointed out that everyone in the village loved Baron's wife's milk. Christina now understood why the villagers gathered there each morning. They also discussed how the captain consistently is the best at drinking his wife's milk and Dallin's brother's impressive fishing skills. However, when the girls realized that was the only one standing, the girls dragged him into bed with them for some biological lessons. The following morning, they visited the captain's home for Christina to try her wife's famous milk. Baron insisted they join him, and a fresh cup was brought out for Christina. She drank it quickly, marveling at its taste. From the way she downed it, the captain guessed she was a skilled drinker, and she admitted she could outdrink most. Fired up, the captain challenged her, but by the end he collapsed while she remained standing. Impressed, she was later given the honor of tasting Baron's daughter's first cup of milk. The young girl was quickly overjoyed to hear that it tasted sweet and went down smoothly, even hugging Christina for her kind words. Back at the palace, Christina's letter concludes by saying she has grown closer to the villagers and the place is becoming dear to her. That evening, Olivia attends a ball where the latest gossip is about Christina's friendship with a beautiful Lamia. The headmistress is surprised that the noblewoman's exploits have become the hottest topic in town. She is joined by Karen, a mage employed by the government general who is particularly curious about the Lamia. Olivia finds it odd that Karen is so interested in a simple Lamia, but Karen explains that humans shouldn't be living with such dangerous creatures, especially with the ongoing mystery of the serial disappearances, as she doesn't want more trouble. However, Olivia doesn't believe the Lamia pose any danger, as an oracle from the goddess Mirel instructed the villagers to live peacefully with her. But the mage Karen remains unconvinced, arguing that they should still prepare for the worst. To do so, she proposes that Selena be summoned to the town for an assessment. Gorda, the commissioner of the northern frontier, interrupts to support Karen's view, offering to lead an envoy to retrieve the Lamia. That night, Dolan astral projects in his dragon form to visit the other world, where he meets Mirel, his old friend. She is delighted to see him, and Dolan thanks her for the oracle that saved Selena, admitting he doesn't know what would have happened without it. Mirel, recognizing him despite his rebirth as a human, shares that she felt his soul among the prayers directed to her. She's happy but also puzzled, recalling how he once seemed weary of life as a dragon. Dolan explains that reincarnation changed his perspective. He now understands how people on the surface live each day as if it's their last. He remarks that while celestial beings live longer, humans' shorter lives burn with a bright intensity. Mirel agrees, noting that he too shines brightly now and that she senses contentment in both his and Selena's hearts. As day breaks, Selena bursts into Dolan's room, waking him up with the news that it's a new day. Dolan asks her to knock next time, but she notices that he's in good spirits. He tells her he dreamed of an old friend who said kind words to him. Changing the subject, Selena reminds him of their promise to plant potatoes with Christina, hinting that the noblewoman might be upset if he forgot. The trio heads to the farm where Selena plants the potatoes unevenly and Christina aggressively punches the ground while planting. Amid their work, Christina rushes over, urging them to come to the village gate immediately. When they arrive, Dolan and Selena are surrounded by guards on Gorda's orders. The commissioner introduces himself and confirms that it was Dolan who brought Selena into their lands. A priestess defends Selena by pointing out that Mirel's oracle proves she is an evil. However, Gorda clarifies that while he respects the goddess's judgment, he's responsible for ensuring the safety of their lands and must address any potential threats. Dolan is relieved that they didn't send an elimination squad, but still wonders what they want. Gorda reveals that they plan to take Selena to the government general to confirm she isn't a threat. While they trust Mirel's assessment, they must follow the law of the land if Selena is to live in Vaughn Village. Dolan requests to accompany Selena since he brought her into the village in the first place, and Gorda agrees, seeing this as a way to prevent any problems along the journey. As soon as they set off, Christina uses a wind spell to rush ahead to the town, seeking a meeting with Headmistress Olivia before the envoy arrives. She barges into Olivia's office, explaining what Gorda did during his visit to the village. Olivia calmly offers Christina tea and reassures her that Selena won't be eliminated, as she has Mirel's blessing. The headmistress also reveals that Kieran orchestrated this, seeing Selena as a potential threat. Kieran suspects the Lamia might be involved in the recent disappearances, though Olivia doubts it given the geographical distance between the incidents. Still, Olivia warns that suspicion could fall on Selena if Kieran builds a case against her. Meanwhile, on their journey, Dolan comforts a worried Selena by holding her close, explaining that his mother used to comfort him the same way when he was anxious. He assures her that there's nothing to fear. As they travel, the carriage suddenly stops, and they're told to step out. Both Dolan and Selena exchange concerned glances, unsure of what's coming next. Dolan and Selena are soon brought to Gorda, the commissioner of the northern border, who shares shocking information that leaves them speechless. Back at the Magic Institute, Christina firmly believes Selena could never commit such acts, and Olivia agrees as Selena lives far away in Bern. However, with Kieran's significant influence in the government, if he's spreading rumors, suspicions could still be directed at Selena. Frustrated, Christina slams her fist on the table and asks if anything can be done, but Olivia cautions that acting rashly could backfire and lead to accusations against them. The Institute's director, meanwhile, has other pressing concerns. Elsewhere, Gorda hands Dolan and Selena over to Kieran, who welcomes them to the city of Gallows. When Selena asks who Dolan is, he introduces himself as someone from Bern Village tasked with accompanying her. Kieran invites them to a grand dinner, sending Gorda to make a report. As Selena marvels at the feast, Kieran encourages them to eat freely to make up for any inconvenience. Feeling uneasy, Selena mentions being frightened by the soldiers, fearing for her life. One of the Institute members acknowledges that there was a possibility of harm as Selena's cursed eyes raised concerns she might be manipulating villagers. Yet she admits these fears were groundless, and that Selena would never harm anyone. Back at the Institute, Gorda enters Olivia's office. Christina immediately asks about Dahlin and Selena, but he disregards her question and instead asks to speak with the director. During the feast, Dahlin grows wary as Karen openly admires Selena's beauty, complimenting her hair, eyes, and scales. Suddenly, Karen ominously reveals her desire to possess Selena's beauty, causing both Selena and Dahlin to faint at the table. In Olivia's office, Gorda asks Christina if she's aware of the young women vanishing in Galos, and she confirms, though she doesn't see how it connects to Selena. Gorda explains that a powerful sorceress, rumored to be over 300 years old, is believed to live in Galos. This sorceress, he reveals, has been using forbidden magic to seal the bodies of young women to maintain her youth, and now she's set her sights on Selena. Alarmed, the Institute realizes they must act quickly before tragedy strikes. Meanwhile, Karen, overjoyed at capturing Selena, reveals that it has been years since she last saw a live lamia. She confesses her intent to use Selena's skin, scalpel, and hand. However, Dahlin awakens and demands Karen stay away from Selena, having broken free from his restraints. Karen is surprised, thinking she miscalculated the sedative dosage. Dahlin notices the magical circle on the floor, which reeks of blood, and he demands to know how many people Karen has harmed. Dodging his question, Karen cryptically says she stopped counting after 100, hinting at her disregard for life. Undeterred, Dahlin presses further, asking what she does with her victims, to which Karen chillingly explains that she conducts experiments on them, using the most beautiful parts of their bodies to keep herself youthful. Dahlin denounces such magic as forbidden, asking if she struck a deal with dark forces. She proudly admits she has, gaining features from various creatures to add to her beauty. Dahlin calls it monstrous, but Karen dismisses him, believing he simply doesn't understand beauty's value. To her, beauty is worth any cost. Just then, Selena, who had been pretending to be unconscious, confronts Karen, accusing her of killing those who came to her for help. Karen coldly defends her actions, seeing her victims as fragile beings who would eventually ruin their own beauty. Outraged, Selena shouts that Gorda was right about Karen's sinister nature. Stunned, Karen realizes too late that Gorda had given Selena and Dahlin a magical item that transmitted every word she said. In that moment, the wall blasts open and Gorda enters with members of the Magic Institute. Christina rushes over to Dahlin and Selena, while Olivia apologizes for the ordeal. Gorda orders Karen's arrest, and soldiers quickly surround her. Olivia accuses Karen of trying to frame Selena for the disappearances, only to plant a false report claiming Selena was killed resisting arrest so she could take Selena's body for herself. Karen, enraged, argues that people blessed with natural beauty could never understand the lengths she's gone to achieve it. Since childhood, Karen had envied the beauty she saw around her, but knew she wasn't part of it. This feeling drove her to search for beauty in increasingly twisted ways, a pursuit that brought her to this point. As the soldiers take her away, she insists her actions were justified by her relentless pursuit of beauty. In her obsessive quest for beauty, Karen targeted young women, eliminating them one by one to piece together her ideal form. Yet it was never enough. The more she attained, the more she craved. Determined to showcase the results of her centuries of forbidden magic, she morphed into her mom being and launched an attack on her foes. Christina, shocked at Karen's transformation, was soon informed by Dahlin that Karen had fused her body with parts from various creatures. Karen then boasted of her beauty, formed from countless lives, claiming she would live forever in harmony with the creatures she had merged. She threatened her enemies, declaring that they too would become part of her collection. In response, Selena unleashed her cursed eyes, paralyzing the monstrous Karen. Seizing the chance, Olivia led the soldiers to safety, knowing they were powerless against such a formidable opponent. But as Selena's strength faltered, the spell broke and Karen lunged to strike. Christina intercepted, severing several of Karen's fingers, proclaiming that harming her friends deserved death. However, Karen's fingers regenerated instantly, and Christina charged again, slicing through Karen's tentacles with powerful magic. Furious at Christina's audacity, Karen summoned dark magic known as the Egg of Aster, causing dozens of eyes to appear across her monstrous body. Realizing the threat, Olivia prepared to act, though she knew summoning the underground spirits might endanger everyone present. Dahlin quickly drew two magical circles, preparing a barrier and an offensive spell. Approaching Karen, he asked if she was truly happy. Enraged, Karen demanded he admire her unmatched mana and beauty. Dahlin replied that beauty achieved through bloodshed could never be real beauty, reminding her that the bodies she used had belonged to people with their own hopes and dreams. Dahlin then summoned the Celestial Spear, unleashing a rain of magic that trapped Kieran within a circle, ending her threat. Later, Selena struggled with her studies, finding it difficult to express herself in the local language. Diane encouraged her, reminding her that with practice, she'd be able to write well in time. Dolan, who was studying alongside her, assured her it was no burden to be with her in the mansion, even if her cursed eyes were the reason for their situation. Christina soon joined them, checking on their progress. Through the window, they noticed Olivia and Gorda arriving by carriage, prompting everyone to gather for tea to discuss recent events. Dolan admitted his surprise when Gorda suggested he and Selena serve as bait for the investigation, though the antidote from Dolan's mentor had neutralized the poison they encountered. Gorda then formally allowed Selena to stay in Galos with additional permission for her to live in Bern without issue. After celebrating, Selena whispered to Dolan that Gorda was very different from what she'd imagined, and Dolan agreed wholeheartedly. Olivia revealed that someone wanted to meet them, leading them to Denzel, the son of an old muggle. Denzel invited them to tour the city, taking them to the bustling main avenue. As they walked, a child accidentally dropped a piece of fruit, which Selena kindly returned. The child's mother, however, quickly shielded her son, wary of Selena's Lamia nature, drawing cold stares from those nearby. Despite this, Selena kept her spirits high, determined to buy gifts for the villagers. At the end of the outing, Dolan invited Denzel to visit Bern, and Denzel returned the offer, suggesting Dolan consider joining the academy. Denzel, noting Dolan's potential, encouraged him to train his powers fully. Dolan, however, declined, stating he was busy with village responsibilities, though he promised to think about it. Olivia added that studying at the academy could allow Dolan to use his powers to protect the village someday. Reflecting on the offer, Dolan acknowledged that his time in Galos made him realize how limited his village life was, prompting Christina to note that growth might be hard in such a remote place. Meanwhile, deep within a forest, a scouting elf spotted dozens of giant ants emerging from a magical portal, where a battalion of warriors awaited inside. In the depths of the forest, a group of elves faces off against a massive monster. During the battle, one of the elves is struck and falls unconscious. Another elf desperately tries to revive him, only to see lifeless eyes staring back. Enraged, she shouts at the creature to leave the forest, but soon the entire group is wiped out. Later, a man wearing a fox mask and a young companion arrive at the crime scene, finding the elves slain. One elf, barely alive, weakly reaches out to warn them of more monsters lurking in the woods. With his message delivered, he dies. The masked man's face grows serious as he remarks that they need to inform the tribe leader of the impending threat. Elsewhere, Dolan and Christina help train the village children, while Selena and Baron watch. As they look on, Selena recalls Dolan's invitation to join an academy, and a wave of worry washes over her at the thought that he might leave. Lost in thought, she doesn't notice when the village kids start playing with her tail, and she chases them in playful retaliation. Observing her, Dolan realizes how much Selena has become a part of village life and hopes things stay this way. Just then, a tired Christina approaches Dolan with a request to explore the forest together. She mentions hearing that powerful monsters roam the woods, and she wants to test her strength against them. Dolan warns her not to enter the forest without a solid reason, but Christina insists, saying a villager can't graze his pigs there due to the monsters. She volunteers to act as a bodyguard, feeling it's her duty to protect the villagers however she can. Dolan sighs, surprised by her eagerness to guard pigs, but agrees to join her. Before long, Dolan, Christina, Baron, and a few knights accompany the pigs into the forest. Selena observes the heavily armored knights, and Dolan explains that with strange monsters appearing recently, everyone has to stay alert. They arrive at the grazing area, where Dolan and the others stand watch over the pigs. Meanwhile, Baron leads his men on a patrol around the area. When a pig wanders into the undergrowth, one of Baron's soldiers chases after it, only to find the injured animal suddenly thrown back toward him by a fierce blade-wielding tiger. Terrified, the guard nearly collapses in fear as the tiger mistakes him for another pig and charges at him. Fortunately, Baron arrives in time to strike the tiger on the head with his enormous hammer, chastising the soldier for his lack of vigilance. Ironically, Baron himself fails to notice a giant black ant creeping up behind him. The ant creature ambushes Baron, quickly overwhelming him. Dolan and the others hear his shouts and rush to his aid, arriving just in time to find Baron defeated by the massive ant. The creature lunges at Dolan, but he blasts it with energy, bringing it down. Christina asks what kind of creature it is, and Dolan explains that it's not just a monster. It's a demon from the underworld, even if only a low-ranking scout, still far stronger than ordinary monsters. When Christina asks how he knows about demons, he replies that he learned about them from old books. Then Dolan offers to pin down the demon so Christina can finish it off. She dashes forward as Dolan weakens it with magic, and taking her chance, she strikes the demon's head, defeating it. Still in disbelief over fighting a demon, Christina agrees with Dolan's advice not to alarm the villagers. That evening, the villagers gather at the chief's home. Dolan returns from checking on Baron and informs everyone that although he remains unconscious, his life is no longer in danger. As the villagers discuss the strange creature that overpowered their guard captain, the healer arrives with good news. Baron has regained consciousness and should recover soon. However, the healer warns them that the creature that attacked Baron was even stronger than the blade-wielding tiger. Dolan, concerned by the signs of unrest in the forest, suggests investigating further. The village healer advises him to tread carefully, reminding him that nature only retaliates when its territory is disturbed. Dolan argues that they need to be proactive to prevent future threats. Reluctantly, the healer agrees with one condition. He must bring someone along. Christina immediately volunteers, but the village chief declines, explaining that risking her safety would betray the trust of the academy headmaster. Seeing her chance, Selena steps up, insisting she will accompany Dolan. He sees the determination in her eyes and cannot refuse. The next morning, Dolan and Selena prepare for their journey, only to find Christina already waiting for them in the forest, unwilling to stay behind. Dolan is surprised, reminding Selena that the chief wanted her to stay, but she just smiles, saying she wants to help protect the village. Soon after, they encounter a swarm of giant spiders and work together to fend them off. Just as they're catching their breath, a large corn ape appears. Christina braces for another fight, but Selena approaches the creature peacefully, offering it a shiny red apple. Christina watches in awe, amused by Selena's calm approach. When she glances at Dolan, she laughs as young apes begin climbing all over him, clearly delighted by their new tree. Taking advantage of the peaceful moment, the group decides to break for lunch, sharing their food with the ape family. Curious, Christina asks if Selena has ever been afraid of monsters. Selena chuckles, reminding her that she is technically part monster herself. She encourages Christina, suggesting she feed the baby apes, and soon Christina finds herself charmed by them. As they relax, Dolan pieces together clues and realizes that both the spiders and the apes may have been driven out of their usual habitats by something far more dangerous. Out of nowhere, Selena glances at Christina, admiring how she even manages to look elegant while eating a simple slice of bread. Dolan agrees, complimenting Christina's natural grace, causing her to blush. Noticing Christina's poise, Selena feels a pang of insecurity and jokingly asks her for tips on being more enchanting, hoping it might attract a good husband. Dolan, sensing her insecurity, reassures Selena, saying she's already charming just as she is. Selena blushes, her mind drifting into a daydream of Dolan proposing to her and a blissful future together. Suddenly, both Dolan and Christina sense a demonic presence nearby. Out of nowhere, a small object is thrown at them, containing an unconscious fairy. Moments later, a demon ant appears. Dolan immediately charges at it, telling Selena to get the other creatures to safety. Christina quickly joins him, and together they manage to defeat the demon. However, more ants appear, surrounding them. Two rush towards Selena, but Dolan takes them down with energy arrows while Christina battles the remaining creatures. In the midst of the fight, another demon ant charges Dolan, but he fends it off by transforming his arm into a dragon's claw, crushing the demon midair. Christina finishes off another one, but as she turns, an ant lunges at her from behind. Selena steps in, using her magic to defeat it just in time. The group revives the unconscious fairy, who introduces herself as Marl. She explains that the demon ants were hunting her under orders from a powerful force. Realizing the severity of the situation, Dolan, Christina, and Selena listen as Marl warns that everyone is in grave danger. Just then, they feel surrounded again. This time it's not demons. Christina instinctively reaches for her sword, but Dolan senses no hostility and motions for her to lower her weapon. Emerging from the bushes, a group of forest elves approaches, led by one who steps forward and assures Marl they've come to rescue her. Marl tried to persuade the leader that both the humans and the Lamia had saved her. At the same time, Dolan reassured his companions that they were safe since they came in peace, although he advised them to stay behind him just in case. Student Geo, the elven commander, approached Dolan to thank him and his group for saving the fairy. The elf bowed respectfully, surprising the trio. However, Geo warned them that Enti belonged to the forest dwellers, expressing some wariness as he asked Dolan why they were there. Dolan explained that they had come from Burn Village, where monsters had appeared. Suspecting something was wrong in the forest, they came to investigate, but he now realized he should have asked for permission before entering the territory, so he apologized. Geo understood Dolan's reasoning and didn't blame him, though he suggested they leave immediately, as the forest was in a state of unrest. When Dolan mentioned the presence of demonic troops who had recently invaded Burn, Geo was surprised. Those were the same enemies currently waging war against the elves and Ente. Christina, losing her patience, demanded to know how they were handling the threat, practically interrogating Geo about troop numbers and whether he had alerted the kingdom. Frustrated, she grabbed the commander by the collar, causing the archers behind him to react. Selena quickly intervened to pull her friend back, but Christina was furious about the elves' apparent reluctance to accept help in such a dangerous situation. She then offered her group's assistance in the war, leaving the elves astonished. Dalin gently placed a hand on her shoulder, realizing her outburst was out of concern for the elves. Fuyo, Gio's sister, commented to Marl that the humans in Lamia seemed like good people, and Marl added that they had proven capable by defeating demon soldiers. Observing the reactions of the elves, Dalin sensed that Christina's strong character had actually helped them gain trust. However, when he heard about the demonic army, he grew concerned. It seemed likely there was a portal linking the demonic kingdom to the forest. If fully opened, it could allow high-level demons to invade Entei. Determined, Dalin declared that he would defeat these enemies before the portal fully opened, even if it meant risking his own secret about possessing the soul of a dragon. He then offered to help the elves, though he understood it was against their laws to accept assistance from outsiders. Feo joined in, urging her brother to accept the help since the strangers were both capable and willing to defend the forest. Seeing the gravity of the situation, Gio relented, accepting the help of the three outsiders. He recognized that the forest's danger threatened everyone and welcomed their support in the fight. The elven leader then extended his hand to Dalin, sealing their agreement. Suddenly, a thunderous crash echoed through the forest and chaotic energy filled the sky, confirming Dalin's worst fears. The portal had opened. 3 demons emerged, wasting no time in beginning their mission. Dalin quickly cast a wind support spell to hasten his group's movement toward the village. One demon, Harem in gray armor, declared that their goal was to seize Entei's Yggdrasil for their ruler. Giroud in red armor remarked that their presence showed the trust placed in them, asking about another demon, Jorg, who had not yet arrived. Raphrasia, a small demon girl, explained that Jorg's immense mana was probably causing a delay. While waiting, Giroud challenged the others to a game of hunting elves, eager to spill blood. Garen declined, uninterested in weaker foes, but Giroud dashed off in pursuit of his target. Meanwhile, the third demon, Garayan, commented that the scent of the forest made her want to show a bit of love. As more demons poured through the portal, they reached the elven village, where defenders began firing arrows to slow their advance. However, the real challenge came when Giroud appeared, declaring himself one of the 4 demonic horsemen. The elves' arrows could not pierce his armor, and with one powerful strike, he shattered the village entrance, sending elves flying. Gio received word from his spiritual allies that demons were attacking from the north, so he planned to enter from the south to reinforce the defenses. As Zert's demons set up a barrier to block Dalin and the others, Giroud scorned the elven resistance, declaring that they could handle his troops but would fall in a single strike from him. To him, the cries of defeated elves were a delight. Approaching a fallen elf, he was about to strike with his spear when suddenly, black rose roots spread across his body, immobilizing him. A female voice then urged the elf to escape immediately. Furious, Giroud struggled to break free from the roots binding him, but the plants absorbed his mana and strength, flourishing even more. The elf he tried to kill stopped and recognized the woman who saved him as Diadora. Meanwhile, Gio and his troops pushed north, defeating enemies along the way. Dalin summoned his ancestral power, unleashing an energy surge that cut down many Zerts at once. Christina, with flawless swordsmanship, swept through the battlefield, while Selena led her magical support. Gio cleared a path between rows of trees serving as an illusionary barrier and directed his team toward the village, ordering them to defend their territory. Dalin stayed behind to buy time, handing his friends refined purity magic crystals from the swamp, enabling them to cast powerful spells. Christina unleashed her tornado ability, Selena conjured earth spears, piercing the demons from below, and Dalin launched a forest-sweeping explosion, impressing Gio. The elf, recognizing their strength, admitted he might rely on the outsiders even more. Dalin, wanting to earn their trust, explained their intentions. However, Diadora accused the demons of unforgivable crimes, destroying flora, insects, and animals that called the forest home. Jello dismissed this as nonsense, saying only the weak considered such things sins, while true sin was weakness itself. Amused, he mocked her accusations. Diadora found his words revolting, yet by his logic declared him sinful for his own weakness. She then condemned him to death, preparing to cast her spell, but a young elf girl interrupted, shouting that Giroud had taken his pranks too far. The girl canceled Diadora's spell, freeing her ally, and introduced herself as Raphrasia, calm and confident. Arriving from the north, Gio and Dalin entered the village, where Gio grumbled at Raphrasia's interference. She mocked his bravado, teasing that he only knew how to cause trouble. Raphrasia then taunted Diadora, asking if she was prepared for pain, but Diadora stood firm, ready to face both demons. Summoning forest spirits, she called for their strength, but they didn't respond. Suddenly, flowers rained from above, and Raphrasia revealed her twisted cruelty, She had plucked beautiful flowers along the way and tortured their spirits. Holding a lily, she described how it withered in her grasp. Gentians cried for help as they rotted, while delicate white lilies were torn to pieces by her forces. Deidora's rage boiled at the desecration of the spirits, especially when Rafflesia recounted how red roses had died, crying out Deidora's name. Fueled by fury, Deidora attacked, though Rafflesia found her anger amusing, claiming that plants naturally compete for nutrients and Deidora should welcome the reduced competition. Losing patience, Deidora escalated her assault, but Rafflesia blocked every strike with ease, announcing that she too was a flower spirit, but not from this world. She was born from the demonic realm, thriving on blood and life, flourishing through sacrifices. Deidora continued her attacks, her vines clashing against Rafflesia's dark energy. Finally, one vine struck its target, pricking Rafflesia's face and drawing blood. Seeing her own blood, Rafflesia was outraged by the assault on her beauty, and the two enemies renewed their battle. Jiri resumed his charge with his spear, ignoring Rafflesia's claim that Deidora was her prey. Deidora conjured vines to block his path, but Jiri tore through them, the impact hurling her backward. Rafflesia then ensnared Deidora, draining her mana as she tightened her hold. Realizing her life was slipping away, Deidora vowed to avenge her fallen friends. But at the last second, a powerful spell struck the demons, diverting their attention. As the dust settled, Dahlin and his group emerged, standing beside her, ready for the next battle. This then marks the end of today's anime recap. If you enjoyed the video and want more of it, please support the channel by leaving a like and subscribe. Let's help us reach our current goal of 20,000 subscribers.